let's link up with Krista on the Fix. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
What is up, y'all? It is Coach Krista. I am back on our latest episode of The Fix. Let's link up today with my very special guest, a Jersey girl herself, living right in Westfield, New Jersey. We are only just less than a couple miles away from each other, but it is pretty snowy outside. So thank goodness for Zoom, am I right? We are sitting down today with Meaghan Murphy. She is an author, a mom, a life hacker extraordinaire, and she is in the process of releasing her new book in just a few weeks, right? It'll officially hit shelves very, very soon. I know you have if you're looking at the video for this, Meaghan's like got that little cheesy smile, but I know lots of exciting things coming down the pipe. That book is called Your Fully Charged Life. And I think I love, Meaghan, that you shared with me the best way to describe you as like an all life hacker sort of type person, because I really think that is exactly what your book gets into. And, as I shared on my Instagram stories before we sat down together, I think that for my audience, I have lots of moms that I have the pleasure of working with in the nutrition world every single day. And I really feel like a lot of your tips and advice, of course, coming from first world experience of being a mom yourself and having a professional career, I'm really excited to get the opportunity to talk to you about what you've done. And like you said, your life's work that you're about to record in your audiobook. By the time this episode launches, all of that will be done and ready to go. So welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here. And as I mentioned before we hit record, I start off every episode the same exact way. First question is, give me your 30, 45 second elevator pitch. Who is Meaghan Murphy and why the heck should we care about what you're up to?
Yay. Okay. Well, I'm all the things. I'm the editor-in-chief of Women's Day magazine. I am the author of Your Fully Charged Life. I'm the co-host of the Off the Gram podcast. I am a life hacker as seen on Live with Kelly and Ryan and the Today Show. And most important job is mom to 3 kids, Charlie 10, who's a girl, James 8, and Brooke 7. And we have a Labradoodle who I call my fur baby, and my husband didn't know what that meant.
Can't forget about the dog. I recently got a puppy.
Like, what is a fur baby? I'm like,
it's a very important role in the family.
He's like, I don't think people will understand that. I'm like, I don't think anyone thinks I gave birth to a ball of fur. It's a dog.
Oh, that's too funny. Men just don't get it, right? They don't.
Yeah.
And second question, and because we're going to get into all of that, and I don't think I shared this with you in any of our exchange, but I actually went to school for journalism. So I'm super interested in your career path and kind of how you got to where you are today. And that'll definitely lead us into your experience through the book. So second question, before we break that all down, what is your go-to coffee order? Because as my Fix fans know, I'm a big coffee drinker. A couple weeks ago, I did a cleanse where I cut it out for a week. And let's just say it was pretty tough, but I was proud of myself for accomplishing it. So what do you like to sip on in the morning?
This is super weird, but I'm recovering from COVID. And I used to be like, I love to wake up and drink a big, giant black cup of coffee. Since I've been in recovery from COVID, I can't stand coffee. It is the weirdest thing.
Huh.
It just makes me feel like I'm going to explode. So I'm currently on tea, which I've never been a tea drinker in my entire life. I don't even understand tea drinkers, but I am currently a tea drinker. And I've just it's like a turmeric, spicy ginger. I forget the name of the company, but that's been really soothing.
Turmeric is very good for you. Great for inflammation in the body. So highly would recommend that to anybody who's dealing with any sort of, forget like a virus or any kind of sickness or anything. It's great for metabolism. It's really great for soothing effects for sleep. If you've ever had if you do like the flavor of that, there's a reishi or reishi, people pronounce it differently. There's this really good reishi tea from Whole Foods. I'll send you a picture of it.
Yay.
It's delicious. So now you'll have to start exploring all your tea options.
Like I'm a coffee person. Like, I'm that person. I wake up at 4:45 in the morning and I'm like,
to enjoy your coffee, like in your silence without your kids. I was going to ask, is that being a mom? We'll get right into the mom piece. For a lot of moms, because I've had a few of them do this cleanse with me, And we all kind of agreed, I'm not a mom yet, but I still feel this way because it's kind of like that serene time before the rest of the world wakes up sort of deal. And when it's in your own house, it's like you have that private moment with your coffee cup before
It's
all
a
the chaos,
ritual.
right? Is it a ritual
Yeah,
for you? How
it's
does that
definitely
help
a
you kind of
ritual.
set the tone for your day?
Well, and here's the thing is like my husband and I, since now we both work from home and are home all the
Mm-hmm.
time, we've like
Mm-hmm.
we got a coffee pot, like not even like the individual pods, like we make a pot of coffee. And I feel like we meet at the coffee pot, like it's like the water
The water
cooler
cooler.
and like what you got any Zoom calls, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And like we have our big cups of coffee. And I love my coffee mug that currently has tea in it. See you on the happy bus.
So cute.
Um,
And look at that lightning bolt. Fits the theme.
Always, always. But yeah, like like coffee to me, I mean, I go to the gym with coffee.
I'm the
When
same way.
I
That's my
go to the
pre-workout.
gym,
I don't
I mean,
really mess with a
I
lot of
would
other
like,
stuff.
I would go to spin back in the day when flywheel existed with like a coffee in at 5:45 a.m. in the bike instead of a water. Like I love coffee.
You're my
So
kind of
I hope coffee
I
comes
hope it
back,
comes back.
right?
I'm gonna really like I'm gonna manifest that for you because
I
that's
hope so.
really sad.
It's like a sadness, but right now if I drink it, I feel like I'm gonna explode.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, we don't want that. That's for
No,
sure. A little caffeine overload. Well, hopefully you can just kind of like ease back into it.
I hope.
Um, okay, so let's talk about you and your journey up into this book. And we can really kind of take this in any direction in terms of whether you want to go chronologically or kind of bring me up to speed on where you are with your book and then work backwards from there. Whatever you feel makes the most sense. But before we talk about your journey and making the decision to write a book itself, I'd love to know what kind of feelings are you feeling right now in anticipation of the release?
I mean, I'm excited. I am like kind of bursting with excitement. I mean, I've put a lot of content out into the world. I've been making magazines for 20 years. I release an issue of Woman's Day magazine every month. This feels different. This feels really personal. It feels like this was my mission. This is my passion and purpose all rolled into one big book that I'm about to give birth to. I felt very called to do this. I feel like this is why I'm here, is to share positive energy and a toolkit for achieving happiness and having a more positive outlook. I absolutely know that's why I'm here. I kind of was able to transform myself, and I know that I can help other people do the same. I think that's sort of what I've enjoyed about being a service journalist all these years, is just to give people good information that can impact their lives for the better.
And let's talk about being a service journalist. Obviously, like I mentioned, have a background in journalism myself. I explored it professionally for a pretty brief period through college. I was actually a business journalism major, so never dabbled into probably the lighter and more fun world of some of the articles that you've put together and written yourself over the years. I interned at Bloomberg and covered mostly equities. So a little more of the dry stuff, but interesting.
The opposite of what I do.
Yes. I did have one period. I actually worked for, you'll know this publication because it is right in New Jersey, in Somerset. I worked for a Gannett publication, and it was part of USA Today. It was back in like 2013. And I had this one editor in particular. And I think this is the interesting part about being in a newsroom and just being in journalism, where there's so many different topics that are covered all at once, regardless of the niche of that publication. He was like a whiz at trivia. And I mean, any fact you could possibly think of, music, food, New Jersey history, you name it, he knew it. And every day he would embarrass me and ask me a trivia question. And usually I could never answer them. And he knew I wasn't going to get them right. But the whole point of going through that experience, and he told me this at the end of my internship, he just wanted me to learn as much as possible. And that's something that I've always appreciated about the field, because you really never knew what kind of story was going to come your way. And I'm curious for you how that has evolved over time to open your eyes or give you the realization of like, hey, it's time that I write a book. Like, what in your professional career led you to where you are now for, I don't know how many years it took you to write the book itself, but that day that, if you remember distinctively in your mind, I'm going to write a book, like you made that choice. What was kind of going through your head in looking at your life that led you to that place?
I've been very lucky that my career trajectory has kind of mirrored my life trajectory.
Hmm.
So I started in teen publications. I worked at YM magazine, which is now
I remember that.
defunct.
Yeah.
Uh, I was one of the founding editors of Teen People magazine.
Wow,
I
that's so cool.
was a on-air correspondent for MTV. I have an acting background. And then I went on to Cosmo. I was at Cosmopolitan when I was kind of single in the city and doing all of that. And then so I was at Cosmo, and from Cosmo I went to Self magazine, which I always say was the 9 of my most self-formative years. It's when I got engaged and married and had 3 kids. And really kind of came into my own as a person and self-actualized. That's where I ran the self-challenge. I was the deputy editor and the fitness director. And then from there, I went to Good Housekeeping. And at Good Housekeeping, it was when I moved to the burbs and got a
So
house.
there you go. That is so fascinating.
You know?
Did
And
you
then-
ever think that your career was going to pan out that way? Because I mean, you literally like graduated as you aged through the evolution of your audience. And not to say that you could totally relate to a teenager when you first started, but you weren't as removed as you would be from that today.
I was 18. I was
Yeah.
18 when I started. When I was at YM, I was 18 years old. I wrote the Real Girl Love Advice column. I had a body image positivity column. Like, I was the demographic. I've always been the demographic of the magazine I was editing, which has made me a guinea pig for the information.
Sure.
It helped me to report on and research things I actually cared about.
Of
I think that's
course.
why I've been successful, is because I've always done things I cared about and pursued things with passion and purpose. And I think that if you have passion and you have purpose and an innate curiosity because you care, you're going to do something good.
I think a lot of people struggle to find what that passion and purpose is. So for you, you mentioned real quick there that you have an acting background. How did you transition that, probably what was a passion initially, into a medium like journalism? What happened in your life? What kind of thoughts did you have early on in your college days, high school career, through that experience to where you are today that kind of solidified for you, okay, yes, this is my passion, and yes, I am pursuing it? Because I personally think at the age that I'm at right now, that is 25, 26 years old, is the time that you're like, wait, am I doing what I really want to be doing? And kind of assessing that.
Sure. I think a lot of my career trajectory was born from adversity. In my teen years, I had an eating disorder. My best friend and I were both anorexics. I was hospitalized, and she died en route to the hospital to be hospitalized with me. She jumped out of the car and was so frail that she died.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty harrowing experience as a 16-year-old. But I always say that there are gifts in all adversity if you're willing to unwrap them. And from that, I wrote an essay about the experience. And that essay won me a $10,000 college scholarship. And it also got me the attention of NBC. And I was on a special and celebrated by Trisha Yearwood and Don Johnson and Bob Costas. And that led to my internship and ultimately contributing editor gig at YM.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that adversity and those hard times really paved the way for my career.
And your openness too.
Oh,
So
of course.
that in there. Like, do
And
you,
that's when I say vulnerability. I mean, I love that about, I think I make Brene Brown proud on a regular basis.
I would 100% think so.
No, I'm a study in vulnerability. I am never like, and I sort of say sometimes I just have no vanity. I guess that's part of it. But like, I don't care what I look like. I don't care what people think, because I know that anytime I'm open and anytime I share that pain, I get gifts back, and then I get the resources to move to the next place. And I think it's sort of really and from adversity and from vulnerability, I have been able to always move onward with grace and excitement.
Do you think at the time when you were 16 and, you know, you went through your recovery process and ultimately did make the decision to write that essay, did you have any idea that it would lead you to the places and experiences that you've had since?
No idea. No idea. And, thank God I was sort of like an impetuous teenager and like didn't give it that much thought, right?
That's a great point.
It was just sort of like, I was an angsty teenager and like that's what I was going through. And I was just, I wrote the essay.
Mm-hmm.
I sent it along.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I would, when people always say, would you look back and tell that 16-year-old to do anything differently? Absolutely not.
No.
Everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to.
And did you always have a knack for writing, or was that essay because it was so personal to you? And to tie back to your point earlier about pursuing things that you truly care about, do you think that kind of strengthened your ability to communicate that message in the experience? Or do you think you're somebody who has just always had that innate ability within them? And I ask that question because in my personal experience, speaking for myself and so many other people that I studied with, worked with, went to school with, it always kind of seems for the journalists out there that it's something we figured out early on in our school careers that we were good at.
I have a gift for writing, humble brag. I have a gift for writing. It's just something I can do. It's something I'm good at. I can hear language. I can make words dance. Like, that's my gift. I've always had that gift. It does not apply to math.
I'm with you there.
And I can have the most open-minded attitude about math, and numbers still, make my eyes cross. Like, it's just, but words, like, I love words. Words are so juicy to me, and I get excited about language. And like, when I could get the sentence right, like, it's just a delight. And I'm a geek about it. Like,
yeah, there's especially about editing. Do you think transitioning from having written so many columns and advice and article after article, because you do have that true love and appreciation for words, how did satisfaction from your career change as you moved into a more of a traditional editor's role and developed more seniority?
It's interesting though. So I've always sort of been editor/writer, and I always had a column. I had, the fitness column at Cosmo. I wrote many articles at Cosmo. One of the articles that I wrote at Cosmo was sort of a turning point in my happiness journey. I wrote an article for Cosmo. It was assigned to me, and I was like rolling my eyes, the 7 Secrets of Happiness, go. And I was like, this is so lame. But as I researched, reported, edited, and wrote that, I was like, oh, wow, there's something to this positive psychology crap. And that's where it first sort of opened my eyes to that you can do happy. And if you don't do happy, you can never be happy.
Be happy.
Exactly. And so, that was really kind of eye-opening to me. But I've always sort of been an editor and a writer, because I do love to write so much. And I think there's sort of like, I always laugh. People think an editor is somebody who adds commas and.
I know, right? There's so much more to it.
Yeah. That's not what I do.
That's kind of like the last thing on the, if you had to put a checklist together, it's like, I think the biggest thing, and I'm just getting this from professors that edited all of my work. So much of it was just like, they're a fresh set of eyes looking at something, and they'll read it and they'll be like, I don't know why those first 3 sentences are there, where they are in the story, and this just doesn't make sense. And it's that person that can look at it and be like way more removed from all the research you did, from all the quotes that you collected, from all the interviews, and kind of dissect if you're getting to the objective, and simplicity too, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I sort of do. Like, as the editor-in-chief of Women's Day, really, it's my biggest job is guiding the creative vision and making sure that every piece of content is sort of in line with the overall creative mission. And my job is to steer that ship. It has really nothing to do with putting comments.
Right. Hey, and how do you wrap your head around that? So I'm sure it's just years of being in your craft, but thinking about, like, let's think about a physical magazine itself. Flipping through all of those pages and you looking months and months down the line, thinking about content, in February for all the way into September, December of this year, and if not beyond, what's kind of your creative process and in working with your teams, collaborating with the other editors to really have the confidence that every time we produce that month's issue, you could flip to any page and be like, yep, this is on brand with what Women's Day stands for?
Well, I think I took over Women's Day in March, at the beginning of the pandemic.
Interesting time to do so.
The magazine from home. I've never even been in the same room with my team. We've done it all virtually, and we really did reinvent the magazine. And I think that, as I've said, my magazine career has always kind of mirrored my life stage. And so I made Women's Day what I thought I needed in this moment, and that was, we reinvented it as destination celebration, no holiday left behind from Taco Tuesday to Christmas. We wanted it to be a joyful escape for people where they could find fun reasons to celebrate and get excited.
How much did the experiences of COVID and how our interaction and social environment influenced that? Do you think it kind of inspired that, or were you thinking about that? Because I'm sure you were potentially being targeted for this job well before everything kind of went down.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's so funny. It had nothing to do with COVID, really. It was sort of where I was at in my life. I was finishing my book, which was really all about having endless energy and filling every day with yay. And so I wanted to make a magazine that was in line with my life mission and my current life philosophy, is that there is yay in every day, and I want to give you the tools to find it. And I want this magazine to be an extension of that. And that's exactly what we created in that life. I mean, it starts with the smile file, and it is like national days, reasons to celebrate. Like, give yourself permission to get excited about National S'mores Day. Chocolate and marshmallows and graham crackers found each other, and that is awesome.
It is
and
amazing.
I want you to eat
We're all
one.
blessed for that. Yeah. So I love that, because that 100% aligns with my mission. And to take it a step further, I even said, I want to give people permission, and they can finish that sentence however they want to. So give people permission to be happy. Give people permission to be sad. Lean into your feelings. And I think that's something that people are really afraid to do. We go through therapy. We go through this, that, and the other thing to try to be happy. But then we kind of like forget how to just exist in our current emotions. So in your experience and everything that's led you up to the book, tell me a little bit about, you touched on your adversity as a teen, what you kind of went through, maybe even at Cosmo. So tell me about first some of the adversity that maybe shaped those very formative years at Self, as you mentioned, because it sounds like you spent a big chunk of your career there. And then more presently today between Good Housekeeping and Women's Day.
Sure. Well, I think that no matter what age or stage of life any of us are, the basic toolkit that I sort of roll out in Your Fully Charged Life applies. Right? Because these are the fundamentals for living a positive, happy, healthy, energized life. It doesn't matter if you have 3 kids and a dog. It doesn't matter if you're 19 and worried about college. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, these are universal tools to what scientists call flourishing. So, I went through that adversity in my, teens and 20s, and then was on a pretty good career path. I was an editor at Cosmo, senior editor at Cosmo, kicking butt. I wasn't happy. It's not like I flipped a happiness switch. I mean, I was, my nickname was Grumpy as a kid. I was inherently negative. My negativity bias was like overwhelmingly strong. I was kind of a miserable, melancholy kind of kid. In my 20s, after writing that article, it sort of started to open my eyes to the fact that there were different ways of living and different choices. And so it was a gradual process of starting to adopt some of those strategies that I had written about and kind of beginning to plant the seeds of thinking and living differently. But it was not automatic.
Okay.
Later, my father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, stage 4, and died very quickly.
Yeah.
And so that was another kind of universe bitch slapped me in the face, and I got to pick up the pieces. I did not want to come out from under the covers, but I had no choice. And my dad was my guy. The book is dedicated to Pop My Cardinal. That he was my biggest cheerleader. He is the reason for my success. He literally framed anything I ever did creative in the basement in like
That's amazing.
Plexiglass, and that gave me the confidence to realize that like I could do anything. Everything was always possible. I mean, he was a cheerleader. Incredible cheerleader, and I'm so grateful to have had such a great dad. Granted, it sucks to lose your dad at 66. I was 39 years old. I had 3 young kids, and that's when I undertook Operation Good Grief, and that was a daily mission to find one thing that didn't suck every day, and I would document it and share it on social media with the hashtag Operation Good Grief.
I love that, and I love how simple it is too.
Super simple. And I think that is one of the core messages in Your Fully Charged Life is the best way out of something crappy is always through. And that requires you to just do it, take an action step. And it doesn't have to be a monumental action step, but it's an action step. There's a reason Nike made boatloads of money from the slogan, just do it. When you feel stuck,
Amen.
You got to do one thing. And that can be something small, but the best way out is through. And so Operation Good Grief was my way out. I would document things that didn't suck. And I legitimately mean things that didn't suck, because I was at my lowest of lows. Like I lost my guy, and I was not braced for that. And it would be small things. It would be like, oh my gosh, okay, there's freaking tulips blooming in my garden. Take a picture, post it with Operation Good Grief. I just had a killer workout at SLT and I'm wearing new K Deer leggings. Take a photo.
Love me some K Deer. Great patterns.
Right,
Yep.
And it would be small things like that, like foam on a latte that was shaped like a heart. Woo! Operation Good Grief. I literally kept that up for about 2 years.
Wow.
And I became like, the best part about it was I kind of created this community of people who had gone through similar.
Who latched onto that.
And it was really great because we began to cheer each other on. And I had grief mentors. I could relate to people who had come out the other side of grief. And that showed me it was possible.
Mm-hmm.
And just this sort of exercise of what scientists would call, or researchers would call, prioritizing positivity, it began to negate some of the negatives, and it began to make that positivity more glaring, more important, more present. And it began to ease some of my stress, some of my anxiety, and the good became louder, and it became really, really loud. And then eventually I didn't want to call it Operation Good Grief anymore, and I just called it Finding the Yay. And the mission became creating a yay list every day and asking people and asking my kids and asking people around me, what made you say yay today? Because if we're able to focus on the good, talk about the good, highlight the good, let the good be louder than all the bad, well, guess what? We're all going to be a little bit happier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the key to this is that this is not toxic positivity. What I say is you can't just look at the bright side, you have to look at all the sides. So you still acknowledge what sucks, right? Like, I know what sucks. I watch the news, like I know what's bad and I acknowledge what's bad, but I acknowledge and then I'm onward. I do something positive to move through it.
I love that. I think that's amazing. And it's really interesting to hear and understand your transition from the name change, because I think there's a lot of value in that. And it goes back to the importance of words and word choice, right?
Well, and that's the thing. I am such a writer editor. Yeah. Like people are like that.
You just kind of knew like this.
I'm like, no, this is the moment. It has changed for me. I feel it.
Yeah, I totally get it. I knew exactly where you were going with it as soon as you mentioned that it switched names, especially having maintained it over 2 years, right? And I'm curious, in the time that you went through that and created Operation Good Grief and transformed it into what it is today, and then ultimately the book, in the beginning, did it feel silly? And if it did, do you remember there being like a clear point with which something changed and there was that like sort of switch that kind of flipped?
What I like to say to people is life is not so neat, right? Life is pretty messy. Yeah. And I don't think there are switches that flip. I wish we were all as simple as on off, right? But I don't think life is ever that simple. And I've never had an aha moment. Like, I wish I were Oprah and I wish I had aha, but I don't. And I think that.
Do you think that's bullshit? Like, do you think that's just like something that somebody has tried to create to sell? Or do you think some people just truly have that in them?
You know what? I bet you there's a moment where all the hard work you've done registers, but it's not like it registered with all that hard work without all that hard work that preceded it.
Sure.
Right. So there, you can probably feel like on this day, I woke up and it all clicked. Okay, maybe like it's that moment where you just realized all of your hard work paid off, right? Yeah. Like I didn't click and change to the A list. I didn't click and become positive.
Right.
I put in some time. I made some smart choices. I did some work, and eventually, the way I moved through the world changed. But it was not like, happy girl, oh gosh, hit rainbow. Absolutely not. That's not how it works. And so don't expect that for yourself, because then you're going to get frustrated. It's all about baby steps.
It is. It is. And you even said it, you did some work. I'd argue you did a ton of work, because the work goes all the way back to when you were 16, and somebody, even in that moment, I'm sure you felt forced to have to face the music of your eating disorder and body image. And you probably resisted it and tried to convince everybody you didn't have a problem. And that really was a snowball for a lot of the rest of your life. And I wonder too, you mentioned that you kind of had that label of being grumpy as a kid. Have you ever stopped at any point to ask yourself why you think that is or where you think that came from? Whether it was internal, relationships, society, your environment. Do you ever think about that?
Sure. And I mean, I even had like a gold grumpy necklace that I keep to this day hanging in my closet to remind me for where I
It's
came.
your shrine.
It's like a fun reminder of like anyone can change and everything is always possible. I think that I am a highly emotional person. I feel things deeply and intensely, and I didn't give myself permission as a young person to feel, right?
Would
Like,
you consider yourself an empath? Do you take on other people's feelings as your
oh yeah, that's why
responsibility
I'm
as
a
well?
damn good actress.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am a damn good actress. It's a shame I am not pursuing the stage right now because like I can take on anything. But I think that a piece of it was like, I can remember in second grade, like hiding in the nurse's office because I was crying at school because I was afraid, like I missed my mom and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't cry, don't feel. Right. Well, I stuffed all of that. And the only way for me to numb that was by stop eating. And an eating disorder for me was very much a way of quieting
Okay.
a lot of what was happening for me.
Which
And
makes
being
sense.
a highly
Makes
emotional
sense.
person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And for a lot of people, it's an emotional, I had Drew Manning on my podcast not too long ago from Fit to Fat to Fit. And we talked about food being a legal drug because the control you can have around it is what people use to manipulate to calm some sort of nerve or make themselves feel better in some way. I think it's really interesting what you said about like don't cry and telling you to push those emotions down. Because that's exactly that coaching experience that I described to you with Kian is trying to focus on like shifting the conversation around mental health of, hey, let's not only identify triggers because that's important, but then instead of identifying them and having a professional just sit there and tell you, okay, if this trigger comes up for you, you should do this, and this activity. Why don't we wait 2 seconds and I talk about that trigger by talking about the emotion that's associated with it and allow yourself to like feel that emotion internally. Scan your body. What is it doing to your body? Do you feel hot? Do you feel cold? Do you want to shake your arms? Do you want to like get up and run around? Do you just want to like breathe? Like it doesn't have to be expressed verbally. Do you just want to make like a sound? Like why use words? I think that's something that's kind of missing in that space in general because we're so quick to like want to fix things and like find a solution, right?
Well, also what I think is really interesting, and I quote a lot of positive psychology and
Mm-hmm.
psychologists in my book, but the therapy that I went through in the 90s, and I think therapy obviously is very valuable and a really good tool for so many people, but the field of psychology, um, often until the late 90s when Martin Seligman kind of
Mm-hmm.
was the forefather of positive psychology,
Sure.
it looked at what was wrong with people and how to fix what was wrong. Positive psychology started to look at people and go, hey, what's right with people? What helps people flourish? And they really started to identify, Martin Seligman's his perma theory and looked at these key
Mm-hmm.
buckets that happy people, that people who were flourishing had in common. And sort of for me, understanding that and working toward those character traits versus like trying to fix what's wrong, trying to
Right.
fix eating
Exactly.
disorder.
And even just like the perception and your perspective on that, because let's take this idea of fixing what's wrong. Someone could argue that you feeling a lot of emotion is a quote unquote bad thing. But if you spin that conversation, I would argue that's actually a great thing because you can relate to people better. There are so many positive things that can come out of that, right?
Yeah. Well, so what was really understanding in the field of positive psychology is what I think really gave me the tools to change my life. And if you sort of look at Martin's PERMA characteristics, so P is positive emotions. You have
Mm-hmm.
positive emotions about your past, present, and future. You have love, you have gratitude, you have those things. So the E is for engagement. You are engaged in some kind of activity, not to a partner, but like you're engaged in some kind of an activity, whether it's work, it's family, it's your church, you're engaged in something. The R is for relationships. You have relationships with maybe it's your community, maybe it's a cashier, maybe it's your family, but you have strong relationships. The M is for meaning. You find meaning in something. You find meaning in your life. You have purpose. That is so key. You can't be happy if you have no purpose. And then finally, the A is for accomplishment. So you have some sense of accomplishment. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have a fancy car and a big fat paycheck. It means something makes you feel accomplished. Maybe that's because you feel like you're taking care of your kids and you're a great mom, or you keep your house plants alive, but you're accomplishing something. And those are really the key traits for happiness. People who are so-called flourishing live fully charged in those aspects. And I think when I started to think about life, hey, wait a second, if I feel like crap today, let's look at the different charges. Okay, what are my relationships like? I'm floundering. Do I need to call my sister? I'm floundering. Do I need to go do a lap around Barron's drugstore and say hi to some cashiers? What is it that I need to work on meeting? Am I going through the motions, or do I feel like what I'm doing matters? And if it doesn't, how do I give it meaning? Right? Like your job might just be a paycheck. Well, then how else do you find meaning? Do you need to volunteer at a soup kitchen? Do you need to coach a little league team? What else can you do to bring meaning to your work? It's those key things. It's like we need to be able to check those boxes and to feel full battery and fully charged in those areas in order to, I keep saying flourish, but that's what research would call happiness.
100%. I think, I'm totally going to butcher his last name, but Impact Theory with Tom and Lisa Bilyeu is, I don't know if that's the correct way to say it, but I listened to one of his podcasts that was just a bunch of people submitting questions recently. And this one woman said that she's a mom of 3 and she feels like she's just living for the weekend, and she wanted to know how she could kind of jumpstart her week on Mondays, because she felt like she was losing an entire day of work on Monday, just trying to get back into the groove of things. And it was so interesting how he interpreted her question, because Tom's response was, what I heard from you in saying that you live for the weekend and wanting to spend quality time with your children was that family is a value of yours. So what I think you need to ask yourself is your current job, what you spend Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 doing, feeding that value? Is it feeding that value because it's putting food on the table and giving you the paycheck to then go do those activities with your kids? Sure, but maybe that's not enough. Maybe you really love children, so you should consider working at a daycare, and reframing how you think about that job and what its purpose is in the rest of your life, which I think is exactly what you're getting at.
Exactly. You have to know what matters. And that's one of the key things to living fully charged, is actually asking yourself point blank, what matters to me? And then giving yourself permission, once again, to pursue what matters with no guilt. You have to chase what matters and excites you. And it's different for everyone.
Yeah, and it's specific to you.
Exactly.
And how do you work with your kids on a day-to-day basis? And I know you mentioned that you have them participate in what made you say yay in your day today. How important do you think that is, given the ages that your children are, and they're in very formative years of their life? And your daughter will be a teenager before you know it, and that comes with so much association of probably a hard time in your life. So how do you feel now as a mom, and the experiences that you've been through, and just conversations with your girlfriends who are also moms? How do you talk about this stuff? How important do you think it is to have these types of conversations around the dinner table?
Well, here I think the thing is that they always say happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
It's happy mom, happy kids. That's really the most important. And I think that we all do need to put on our oxygen masks first. And again, giving yourself permission to put yourself first. That's not selfish. It's necessary.
100%.
And I think that's very hard as moms. And there's
So
this
hard.
bullshit term called mom guilt, which I don't subscribe to. No guilt, please. That's crap. But I think that if you think of yourself as a mom mirror, so if you take care of yourself first, and that you're happy, healthy, grounded, passionate, fulfilled, feeling a sense of accomplishment, and you're checking all of your fully charged boxes, then you become a really great mom mirror.
A lot of my clients, it's tapping into this inspiration, not motivation, because I think motivation is an emotion that comes and goes. That by showing up for yourself, you will be a better version of you that impacts everybody else around you in such a bigger way.
I like making my kids proud. That feels really good. They make me proud all the time, and I love it when I'm able to make them proud. I especially see it now with my 10-year-old daughter, and it's truly magical. I don't shove my fully charged principles down their throat. I just live them.
Mhm.
Because it is sort of a weird thing. Like mom wrote a book and mom's the
Right.
fully charged PA person.
Yeah.
Like that's weird. And she's 10 and that's not cool. But I am absolutely living this life and mirroring this to her. And one of my proudest and most exciting mom moments was I found on her desk Charlie's checklist. And it was all the buckets of a fully charged life. It was like sleep. I feel better when I sleep well. Movement. I feel better when I move my body. Um, Meditation. I feel better when I calm my mind. And it was all of these things um, that I do and that I practice and that I mirror to her, that she had made her own Charlie's checklist and was checking them off and living these strategies that I've never actually talked to her about.
Right. It's not like you've sat down and been like, do
No.
this. Yeah.
I said, Char, I saw your checklist on your desk. I'm like, can you walk me through it? Tell me about this. And she's like, oh, mom, these are the things that I know make me feel good. And when I do these things and check these boxes every day, I know I'm going to have a good day. And
I love that.
I was like, I'm so proud and so excited. Do you care?
I'm like beaming for you. I think that's so awesome.
It was everything, because you never, and I say this to moms all the time, you never really know you're getting it right, you know?
Mhm.
And this was one of the signs that
I'm
was
26 and I just had this conversation with my mom.
right. Like you just
Yeah.
don't know. It's not like pass fail. It's not like you get a raise for being a mom.
Yeah.
It's not like, you get like a high five from your 8-year-old to know that like you're really getting it right. And so I think that's partly the hardest part, or unpaid labor of being a mom. You don't, your boss isn't gonna like review you. You just don't know. And so a moment like that to validate everything I've been doing and all the struggles that we've been having, because this has been really, really hard. Me and my husband both suddenly working from home. I have several jobs, and trying to homeschool and do virtual.
Yeah.
And fighting COVID. Like it's been brutal. So to know that I am getting it right, and that as long as I'm taking care of me, they're seeing that, and I'm a good mom mirror. That was ultimate validation.
Now let's take the same context and frame to your partner. What advice do you have for people if, they might identify someone in their life, and whether that's their spouse, significant other, very close family member, otherwise, that may need some of the positive psychology and biohacks that you're talking about? And I ask this question because in my personal life, the reason why I identified that I wasn't with the right person was because I was always the source of positivity. I mean, being a fitness coach and a nutrition mentor, it just kind of comes with the job and is very easy for me because it's real for me. Like I embody that every single day. But I had quit what I thought was my dream job at the end of 2019 and kind of felt lost and fell apart. And he had been through prior experience where I filled that like, hey, I'm going to hype you up, I'm going to build you up role. And then he couldn't do it in return when I really needed it. And it was meant to happen. It sucked. Like it was horrible. But I needed to go through that to kind of realize, like, first of all, no one's going to save you. You got to find it within yourself. But more importantly, how have you seen, what kind of conversations you have with your husband? How have you seen some of your research and outlook on life kind of like rub off on him? Or do you think law of attraction, you attracted each other because that's the type of person you needed in your life too, to kind of match your energy and where you are? I
got lucky in love. I married my brother's best friend. I'm 4 years older than him. So growing up, I mean, I've known him since second grade, but growing up, I was like, ew, I'm a senior year freshman. Ew. Like we even went to the same college, but I was always like, ew, you're 4 years younger. That's
how did you guys were you always stayed friends? Like, cause of the connection with your brother, like, did you reconnect later in life?
My brother's best friend. So he was always a part of
around. Yeah.
He was at my sister's wedding. I sat him with my best friend at the time and was like, you guys should hook up. Like I would try to get his ex-girlfriend's jobs. Like, I was like, oh, that Pat Murphy's such a good guy. You should definitely hook up with him. But never was always like not for me, because it's like that weird age bias you have when you're younger.
Totally.
Like I'm not gonna sleep with one of my brother's best friends. It's the gross thing I've ever. But ultimately, we were both like living in Hoboken, single, and my brother would have us over for dinner, and like we were reading the same book. We had a lot in common. We both like salt on our food. And I'm like, this man's not going to judge
We
me
both
for
like salt in our
intake.
food. He's checking all these boxes. Ew, run away.
Exactly.
Because he checks so many boxes, you're like, oh, I got to run further, right?
And eventually, like we just made out when we were all out in Hoboken, and like, I mean, I think I put my hand on his thigh and just started kissing him because I was like a Cosmo girl at the time, and I was fun and fearless. And then it was just like, I mean, we've been together 15 years now. And he is my balance. So, he's like, I mean, I dated such douchebags that would like, it's just hard to explain. Like, it's finally easy. And I understand that that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think I rub off on him. We have very opposite personalities. I'm big and loud and extroverted and extra in all the ways. I'm extra as fuck, and he is not. But we had this funny experience, and I can call it a funny experience. A week or two ago, my one son was projectile vomiting at 2 a.m. And I had just gotten a new rug in my bedroom. So I basically dove on the vomit like a human shield to save the rug. I'm covered in vomit in my pajamas. It's in my pocket. It's in my hair. I'm covered in vomit. My husband gets out of bed too. I have to take off my pajamas, throw them in the garbage. So I'm naked, cleaning up vomit. Like it's in the floorboards. It's everywhere. Like my son has projectile vomit.
It permeated into every surface.
It was everywhere. My husband was like literally cleaning out of the cracks with like a credit card. It was insane. But through this process, my husband looks at me and he goes, well, the bathroom did need a deep clean anyway. And I was like, oh my gosh, you are fully charged. You have absolutely I've worn off on you. You have
you're like, in one breath, you're like, you motherfucker. But then you're also like, that's it. Like you made a joke in light of this situation.
Found the grain of good in a really bad situation. And I think that's how we live here at Team Murphy headquarters. Like, we live life with a fun filter, and we're not afraid to find the yay or to find the joy. And I think that's really important. And I also think one of the things that we really tend to do with our spouses in particularly is forget to appreciate them and forget to show them the same gratitude you would show a friend. So like a friend brings you chicken soup at your doorstep and you write them a thank you note, right? Mm-hmm. Your husband cooks you dinner and he's lucky if you look up and say, thank you, it was delicious. And I think that we tend to do that, and just pausing to show appreciation can really be transformative in your relationship. And I don't just mean like a bullshit thank you, but like thank you because really sort of adding what I call gravy to your gratitude and showing like how that action helped you or why that impacted your day. Thank you for making dinner. It allowed me to finish my Zoom call. I feel so much less stressed now that I got that meeting out of the way, right? Like adding gravy to your gratitude, really kind of
being more specific, using your words, right? How have you learned to do that? Has it been through, because, tying back to your theme of adversity, did you go through experiences where you had to kind of sit back and say, that argument that we had, maybe it was more so because I was trying to get him to just read my mind? Because I do think it's kind of going down that path, right? I've had a lot of friends and conversations with people recently about like masculine and feminine energies and how women have kind of like taken on this idea that they have to operate from a place of masculinity to be independent, take care of themselves, whatever, kind of like the whole idea of, hey, don't cry. But in tandem with that, we've tapped so far away from our feminine selves that we've also put this like crazy expectation on men to just like know what we need them to do without saying it, which is kind of it's unfair. It really is. Like if you're not getting what you want, but then you don't tell them and you just pout, well, sorry, you're going to keep getting what you got.
Yeah, I think so. An operating principle in my house is, I think, thinking of your family as a team. So instead of thinking of like gender roles or masculine versus feminine roles, I like to think of it as who best plays the role on the team. Like, okay, well, if like who's the pitcher, who's the catcher, who's the third base, who's good at what? My husband is a really good cook and he actually enjoys cooking, so he does all of the cooking. I, really good at cleaning. I was an editor at Good Housekeeping. I enjoy straightening, organizing, cleaning, so I do most of the cleaning. My husband is the tech god. Like he's the one that makes sure the iPads work. What are you good at? Like how do you play to your strengths? how does the team function best? Like, who are you putting into the game? If we sort of look at it that way, like who's good at what? Like, let's just like objectively look at what we're good at, what we enjoy doing, what helps us thrive. And then, okay, perhaps what do we both suck at and hate and just needs to get done? And how do we divide and conquer that?
So we can get through together.
Exactly.
I think that's
I
great.
call my family Team Murphy, and I think we really do function as a team. It's about everybody pitching in and playing to their strengths. And it works. It just works.
I love that. I think that's a great message. And, I think that's something that you can then, that's a great kind of mom mirror moment too, because I'm sure you can observe that now as your kids are getting older and how they interact with each other, splitting up responsibilities around the house no child is perfect. They can fight and it's okay. It's part of life, right?
They will fight.
Yeah, it's going to happen. So just let it roll, right?
It happens a lot when you've been quarantined.
Oh, I'm sure. So to move in a little direction before we wrap all of it up, let's talk more about the business of writing a book. What has the experience been like for you in comparison to writing articles, and how did you kind of approach tackling something that could have felt pretty big? One, because it was so important to you, but two, just for length. Like, this is a way different process. And talk to me about how you broke it up, how you approached it, what editing was like for you reading such a long body of work. Did you kind of truncate that out? What did you do, and what do you think worked for you? And if you do plan to write a second book, what will you carry with you?
So I think, first of all, the impetus of the book was, and I think everyone should ask themselves this, like, what do people come to you for?
Mm-hmm.
What do people ask of you? And for me, people are always like, I want to bottle your energy. I want to bottle your positive energy. And so this book was my answer to that. That's why I knew
that's a really cool question to ask yourself. Never thought about that.
What do people come to you for? That's your secret sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your gift to the world. And so when you're able to answer that truthfully, you know what you need to do. So start it with
awesome.
that.
That's awesome.
That's how I knew that this was my calling.
Okay.
And I'm lucky because I've been in the media for 25 years. So I was able to ask friends who have had books, step one. And I met with a bunch of different agents. And again,
Mm-hmm.
I was really lucky to be able to have access to literary agents because I'm connected in the media.
Right.
I've been an editor for 20 plus years. So I met with a bunch of different agents. And I really connected with my agent, Laura Nolan at Avitas Creative Management. We cried over coffee. She didn't get me, which was amazing. And I had this challenge of writing her a couple of essays to show her what I wanted to do and what I was all about. And I did that. And she's like, wow, you can write. You've got something to say. She's like, and it's weird, but that one essay really stuck with me. And so she signed me. So I signed with an agent, step one. And step two was writing a proposal. So I wrote a treatment for the book. It was a 70-page treatment. It outlined exactly what the chapters would be. And then for me, it was a media plan. And that really, I had some famous friends write endorsements for me. I'm lucky enough to call Jillian Michaels a friend. She wrote an endorsement for me. Editor-in-chief of Shape Magazine. Maria Menounos. Like, I called on some friends I've been connected with through the media to endorse me. Which basically is, it tells publishers, like, she's legit, she's real, like, this could be something. And then I had a marketing proposal. This is what I'm going to do to help support the book. These are the TV shows I'm going to go on. This is what I'm going to do. And once I got that right, and it took a year, I went back and forth with my agent for an entire year perfecting what was going to be this proposal for a book treatment. Because once you do that, then she shops it to publishing houses. And so over the course of a 2-week period, she shopped it to publishing houses. Everyone from Penguin Random House to, name any publisher. It went out to every publisher. And then if you're lucky enough to get meetings, you take meetings. I was lucky enough to get about 7 or 8 meetings. And I went to all these different publishers. This was obviously pre-COVID, and sat down with them and pitched the book and told them why I think it would be a success. And the meeting at Penguin Random House was like, I was beside myself. Like, I saw, Michelle Obama's book on the wall, and I was shaking, and I was like, I left, and I was such a geek. And I'm like, I just wanted you to know, like, this would be a dream come true. I really want you to have my book. I would love to work with you. And like, we get down to the lobby, and my agent, who I'm obsessed with, was like, Yeah, not cool, Meg. Like that was scandal. And I was like, I know, I absolutely know.
But you were being real and raw,
It
right?
was just real
That
and
was the
raw.
yay in that day, just
It
getting to
was
be there, right? Even if it didn't work out.
exactly like I'm sitting in Penguin and a mouse, and I'm pitching them my book. It was amazing. So then at the end of that 2 week period, the book goes to auction, and it was like a Tuesday at 11 a.m. And my agent was going to get the offers, and I'm at work at Good Housekeeping, and I'm like, my phone's in my pocket. I'm in a meeting, and I like, my phone is ringing, and I can't pick it up, and I'm dying because it's that moment. It's like you either got a book deal or you didn't. You got multiple offers, you got none. And I remember leaving for work that day, telling my kids and my husband, like, hey, listen, mommy worked so hard. I did everything I could. If it doesn't happen, it didn't happen, and it's okay. I'm proud of what I've done so far. And luckily I got several offers, which was a dream come true. Penguin Random House was the offer I took, dream come true. And then started the process of writing it. I had a year to finish. It was due this past April. I turned it in at 90,000 words. And my editor was, basically like, I've done this for a long time. So to be honest, it was in pretty good shape. Basically, the biggest mandate was trimming 20,000 words and moving a few sections around. And that's sort of the funny part of it. Now that I finally got the real book in my hands yesterday for the first time, I'm like, I can't wait to reread it. I'm like, because you kind of have this moment of like, is that anecdote still in there?
Yeah, because it's like I said, it's this huge body of work that you're like, I don't really remember it's not like you're going to remember what you wrote on which page and then what made it, what didn't after all that back and forth, right?
I'm like, I literally am having a moment of like, is that story still in there? Like you just don't because it's been a 3-year process,
right?
Probably all in. But holding the book in my hands for the first time yesterday was truly, literally one of the most exciting, magical.
That's so cool.
It was surreal. And I'm proud and I'm excited, and I hope that people really are helped by this. I mean, that's the goal.
I love that. And my question is, because you mentioned that you said to your kids on that day when you were awaiting the news that if you didn't get the offers that you were hoping for, it's okay because you're still really proud of yourself. Fast forwarding into 2021 and playing a little of like a game of what if, let's say you didn't have the media career that you've had and you did not have the opportunity to get access even to, let's go as far back in the process to just endorsements and the everything you went through, would you have self-published and would you have written the book anyway?
I don't think it would have been feasible. And that's simply because the advance was very helpful. The advance enabled me to get help with some of the research. It enabled me to be able to do my magazine job and to moonlight at 4 a.m. getting this done, writing, editing. I was able to have, a collaborator help with all of the research, which I wouldn't.
Sure.
It enabled me to be able to do the photo shoots for the pictures.
Right, exactly. It wouldn't have been to the caliber that you wanted to. And it sounds like with the type, I'm making a huge assumption, but I've talked to you now long enough that I think I'm correct. It wouldn't have possibly been at the level of maybe professionalism and completeness that you would have wanted it to be, right?
And it would have
taken a lot longer.
Exactly. It would have taken a lot longer. I mean, like, and it also just felt more real to me, to be honest. It felt more real. It felt important.
Yeah, and especially given, even if, let's say you didn't have the career trajectory that you did, but you still had any sort of media job and for any amount of time, I do think it's like you've had the experience of like what's behind the fold, like what actually went into building this magazine, building this newspaper, putting a book together, that it's just like you can't separate that from your look on it, right?
Yeah, like I'm a career writer, editor,
right.
journalist. Like I wanted to do this right,
the right way.
I wanted to do it big. And I am a person who goes big or goes home. Like I go big.
That's exactly why I said what I said.
Yeah, and it's like I have no shame in that. Like I am big.
And you shouldn't.
And this had to be big. Like I was ready for it to be big.
Do you think you'll write a second book?
Yeah, I mean, I already have like a bazillion ideas.
Yeah.
To do fully charged kids, the fully charged workout, the fully charged diet. I'd love to do a yoga day calendar. I mean, I have like endless ideas. First, this comes out on the 23rd. Hopefully it's a big hit and people find really useful tools and tricks in it and want more.
Well, absolutely. I'm very excited for you. And I've, like I said in my Instagram stories before this, I did get a sneak peek of the book and I've already started reading. So I'm pumped and I can't wait to get through more of it and just see how people respond to it too. I think that's really probably going to be the coolest part of the experience for you, right?
Yes. That's what I like. I've had some early readers and I've had some really good feedback from some of my fun friends like Joe London and Paula Ferris and Karina from Tone It Up, who really had nice things to say about it. But I just can't wait for like the every reader to share which tips stuck and what worked and what helped. That's going to be so magical to me. I mean, it's the same as if someone makes a recipe on Women's Day or tries to mix the wreath. Like I find such joy in being able to share information and news people can use.
I love it. Well, that's amazing. And, I think if you write the fitness one, then we're going to have you back on the show because I can think literally like of a slew of questions. We could do a whole other episode just on your relationship with exercise and fitness between your, trauma of an eating disorder plus being a mom and how you fit it into your day. But we'll save that for another time.
And the health charge, the health charge chapter of the book really does talk very much about
I'm going to pay particular attention to that one for sure. No, I think I love how you, have it kind of broken down into those types of sections because I think it can really show people two things that kind of compete with each other. One, that this permeates into every single area of your life, but two, maybe you start small and maybe it's too overwhelming for you to be like, I gotta like find everything that's so joyful to be positive about. Maybe you already really enjoy fitness, so why not start there and like make the health charge like your top priority for whatever amount of time and then build upon that gradually.
Absolutely. It is how you do one thing is how you do all things. Mm-hmm. You can dive in anywhere and it will have this ripple effect of goodness.
100%. I totally agree with that. I love that. It's just like they say that smiling is contagious. That goes in tandem with happiness being contagious. So Meaghan, you're awesome. I've loved getting to chat with you today. I end every show the same exact way as well. And we do a quick lightning round. So I think I'm going to try to keep it like a little more localized, which will be more fun for me and you versus, and I have a lot of Westfield listeners, but I think that'll be like a cool spin on it. I never think of these in advance. It's just kind of like whatever comes up in the conversation, but we didn't talk a lot about Westfield. So I think we owe a little homage to it, right? Okay.
Do you know that I run the Westfield Instagram?
I do know that. So I think this could be the perfect little segue into that. So if anybody wants to check out the Westfield Instagram, Meaghan is the thumbs behind it and the picture snapper behind it. I wish I had that when I was growing up here. Like that didn't exist. Instagram wasn't really a thing, but so
the town doesn't like the name, but I just think of it as like a love letter. So.
Well, you know what? I like it because if you grew up here and like, everybody knows that phrase, like Westfield, Westfield. So whatever. The town can have lots of opinions on lots of things. Let that one go, right? All right. I need 75 more seconds of your time. You ready?
Good. Go.
Okay. What is your favorite restaurant in Westfield?
It's a tie. Okay. Well, it's like a triple tie.
All right,
I love the Monty because I'm very tight with the owners, and I think George and this stylist, I can never say the name because she's so great. But they just treat you like family.
Their food is delicious. Like
the food is so good.
Like you can get fish takeout is so hard, and I've actually never eaten in their restaurant even before COVID. Like my parents used to just order from there a lot. It's amazing.
Their shrimp they make like a shrimp and fava bean thing for me specifically because I'm a chicken. And I love their tartuffe. Like they have this like tartuffe dessert thing that I'll like order. It's like a mango passion bomb. So obsessed with them. And I love it's BYO when we get to eat in restaurants again because it makes it affordable. I love Ferraro's because their gluten-free menu. I'm celiac. Their gluten-free menu is pretty awesome. Like I
didn't know that about them.
I can get
learn something new.
Right. I can get anything I want there. And let me think. Those are my
your top two
go-to restaurants.
We can expand this. We'll say New Jersey. We'll say New Jersey / New York because obviously you spent much time in New York. Favorite workout, like studio, class, whatever instructor if you're feeling crazy?
I would say, so I can't, like naming a favorite workout, it's like naming a favorite child, so I have to name them all. I'm obsessed with SLT and short hills. It just changes my body. After having 3 kids, that gave me my abs back. It showed
Well, I love hearing that because I'm coming up with my unique fitness programming for my concept, and I am getting my Pilates certification. So we're planning on having some fusion of that in there.
That's amazing. Mat-based Pilates never really works for me because I have a hard time activating my core. What I love about
it's got to be the reformer. It's the reformer for me.
You can't cheat, and I love it. It changes my body. So SLT. I like Orange Theory because orange is my favorite color, and it's effective.
There you go.
Super close. I haven't been there in ages though.
I've actually started going there recently. The Garwood one.
Not back in the gym yet. I got COVID anyway, so whatever. I love Alpha Fit Club. I love Sam Tooley. I love the energy and the community of Alpha Fit Club. I love home power yoga. I haven't done yoga in a while because I can't do it virtually. I just can't focus. But like the energy of home power yoga in Cranford.
Yeah, they're right in Cranford, right around the corner from me.
Katie and Elizabeth are like 2 of my favorite people. I love home power yoga. I started running again through COVID. And that has been, I used to be a marathoner and I just stopped running and I loved running again. So those are I think my tops. And then Chelsea Palladino does the Zoom kind of fire beat bar-ish kind of dancing workout. She's now pregnant, so she's not doing as many, but like that has been a saving grace through the pandemic for me.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah, I love exercise. I've been a certified trainer for 17 years, and it's my medicine.
Do you have a favorite brand of like leggings, workout gear? We mentioned K-Deer, and we'll give a shout to a New Jersey brand, which is cool.
I love Fit Mama. I'm friends with the creator of Fit Mama, and she just makes such fun, crazy prints. I even have like my own personalized third eye leggings that say Meaghan on the butt.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that makes me really happy.
I think we need to get you some. Did anyone give you any ones with lightning bolts on them yet?
I'm talking to K-Deer about maybe making a fully charged legging.
You should do that.
I love Athleta because we have our store right here in Westfield.
Yeah, it's a great shop too.
And I love workout gear. I think it's
have you checked out, you know what you would like if you really love patterns? Have you checked out Liquido?
Yes, I used to have a ton of their stuff. I haven't had anything in a while. But yeah, I used to have a lot of their stuff. I like anything that's like bright, colorful, cheery, because I dress up to feel up.
There you go. I mean, look at you sitting there with your pink glasses. We got it going on, and the lightning bolts. Okay, very last question. 2-parter. What is your shameless plug, and where can we find you on social media, which we will link all of this down in the show notes?
My shameless plug would be to maybe give Your Fully Charged Life a read. It's a radically simple approach to having endless energy and finding yang in every day. It's for sale wherever books are sold. And if you do buy it and you do like it, consider giving it a review and some stars on Amazon or wherever you bought it. Those reviews really help authors. And I don't know if people really know the ins and outs of book selling, but like that really matters. It really matters for sales. It really matters for authors. So it's like high-fiving the author every time you leave a comment.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. I've so enjoyed speaking to you. And when we can get back to normalcy, I think we should make a plan to hit a workout.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna
Sounds like a plan.
Oh my gosh, we'll do like a fit tour.
Wouldn't that be so fun? As you were listing all the places, I was like, we should. I'm thinking like big, and I'm like, let's start an Instagram account of all the places that we can go work out in like the surrounding 6 towns. It would take us a while to get through everything.
And
it'd be
I've
really fun.
Probably been to every single one.
I'm sure you have.
I am that person.
I love it. I love it. I think it's just such a cool way to meet people, and just like pick up different vibes from different studios, different instructors. It's a lot of fun. And to me, that's why I don't think the fitness industry of the experiential boutique fitness is going to go anywhere, because there's just something that you can't mimic with that. We can try our hardest.
I do have my Peloton, and Kendall Toole has gotten me through a lot of this. I had never ridden it until the pandemic. And now I just virtually high-five people. I'm like,
we got to do it somehow, right? Got to keep connected. For sure. Well, hope you feel better. But thank you so much. And best of luck with your recording this weekend. Let me know how it goes. And we can't wait to check you out. This has been our latest episode of The Fix. if you guys, just like Meaghan said about leaving reviews for books, please, if you got any value from this message, I think she would certainly attest to and add to her shameless plug. It's about spreading the message of positivity and happiness. And you can do that by sharing this show and this episode with other people. So as you know, we are available on Apple and Spotify at The Fix with Krista Huber. Also on Instagram, I do have a separate Instagram account just for my podcast called thefix.officialpod. So if you loved this episode, leave a review, drop a comment, tell me what you enjoyed about it. Give Meaghan a little virtual high five for her book. And we look forward to seeing you guys soon. Have an awesome rest of your day.